You finally have a free weekend, no obligations, no deadlines, time to rest, and instead of relief you feel anxious, guilty, like you're wasting time, like you should be doing something. So you scroll through your phone feeling vaguely terrible. You start tasks, you don't finish it, you think about all the things you could be doing. And by Sunday night, you're exhausted, not from resting but from fighting the rest itself. Here's what nobody tells you. Your inability to rest isn't laziness. It's not a lack of discipline. It's a nervous system that's been trained to associate your worth with your productivity. And until you understand why rest feels like punishment, you'll keep burning out and calling it balance. Let me tell you something that's going to sting. You don't actually believe you deserve rest. Not the way you say you do, not in the way that matters, because if you truly believed rest was valuable, you wouldn't need to earn it. You wouldn't need to be sick, or burnt out, or at the edge of collapse to give yourself permission to stop. But here's what's actually happening. You've internalized a system where your value is conditional. You're only worthy when you're producing. You're only good enough when you're achieving. You're only deserving when you're useful. Rest threatens that entire framework, because rest is the ultimate act of believing you have inherent worth. Worth that exists even when you're not performing, not producing, not proving anything to anyone. And that terrifies you, because somewhere along the way you learned that your value wasn't a given, it was something you had to continuously earn. And if you stop earning it even for a day, you might lose it completely. This is why rest feels like punishment. It's not the rest itself that's uncomfortable. It's the confrontation with your own beliefs about what makes you worthy of taking up space in this world. Here's the truth. You're not avoiding rest because you're driven or ambitious or passionate. You're avoiding rest because you're scared. Scared of what it means about you if you're not constantly doing. Scared of the thoughts that catch up when you slow down. Scared of the emptiness you might feel when you stop filling every moment with activity. Rest feels like punishment because you've been punishing yourself with productivity for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to just be. Let me show you exactly what's happening. There are specific patterns at play that make rest feel impossible. Understanding these will help you see that this isn't a personality flaw, it's a learned response. Pattern number 1, the productivity worth equation. You've created an unconscious equation. Productivity. Rs. Worth. It started early. Maybe you got attention when you achieved. Maybe love felt conditional on performance. Maybe the only time you felt valued was when you were helpful, or successful, or making others proud. So you learned, I am what I accomplish. Now, every moment of rest is a moment where that equation doesn't balance. If you're not producing, what are you? If you're not achieving, who are you? The answer feels like nothing. Like no one. And that's terrifying. Here's the thing that changes everything. This equation was never true. You didn't create it. It was taught to you by systems that benefit from your constant productivity, by capitalism, by hustle culture, by families that measured love and achievement, by schools that measured worth in grades. You've been living someone else's definition of value, and it's killing you slowly, one productive weekend at a time. Pattern number 2, the anxiety avoidance cycle. Here's what's actually happening when you try to rest. You stop moving, and immediately, anxiety floods in. Anxiety about all the things you should be doing. Anxiety about falling behind. Anxiety about wasting time. Anxiety about the undefined dread that something bad will happen if you stop. And instead of sitting with that anxiety, you do what your nervous system has been trained to do. You move. You find a task. You check your email. You create busy work. Because movement feels like progress, and progress feels like safety. But here's what nobody tells you. That anxiety isn't about the tasks. It's about what resting means. When you rest, you have to face yourself without distraction. You have to sit with uncomfortable emotions you've been outrunning. You have to confront the reality of your life without the numbing effect of constant busyness. So your brain, trying to protect you, creates urgency around productivity. It makes rest feel dangerous. It floods you with guilt and anxiety until you get back to doing. Because doing has always been your escape. You're not bad at resting. You're scared of what you'll find when you stop running. Pattern number 3, the worthiness deficit. You operate from a place of deficit, like you're starting each day in debt, and productivity is how you pay it back. You wake up feeling behind, like you're already failing before you even start, and the only way to catch up, to feel okay, is to produce your way out of that feeling. But here's the devastating truth. No amount of productivity ever fills that hole. Because the deficit isn't real, it's a story you're telling yourself about your worthiness. You could work 18 hours a day and still feel like it's not enough, because the problem isn't how much you're doing. The problem is that you believe you're not enough, so nothing you do will ever be enough. Rest becomes impossible because it doesn't contribute to paying back a debt that doesn't exist. It doesn't move you toward a finish line that keeps moving. It doesn't earn you the worthiness you already have, but can't believe in. You're trying to earn something you were born with, and exhausting yourself in the process. If you're thinking, this is exactly what I've been feeling but couldn't name, if these patterns are clicking into place, this is exactly why I create this content every week. I break down the psychology behind why we struggle, so you can stop blaming yourself and start actually healing. Hit subscribe so you never miss these insights. Every week, we're diving into the patterns that keep you stuck, burned out, and disconnected from yourself. If you're ready to understand yourself at this level, you belong here. Pattern number 4. The comparison trap. You can't rest because someone else is working, someone else is hustling, someone else is getting ahead while you're sitting here doing nothing. Social media has made this worse. You see people's highlight reels, their productivity, their success, their grind, and you internalize the message. If you're not constantly doing, you're falling behind. But here's what you're not seeing. You're comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. You don't see their burnout. You don't see their anxiety. You don't see them collapsing on Sunday nights wondering why they can't stop. You're in a race no one else is running, a competition that exists only in your head, and you're sacrificing your well-being to win a game with no finish line and no prize except more exhaustion. Pattern number 5. The identity crisis. This is the deepest pattern, and the most painful to recognize. You don't know who you are without productivity. If you're not the hardworking one, the reliable one, the one who gets things done, who are you? If you stop achieving, what's left? If you're not defined by your output, what defines you? Rest forces you to confront this question, and you don't have an answer, because you've spent so long building an identity around what you do that you've lost touch with who you are. So rest feels like an existential threat, not because you're lazy, but because you're terrified of discovering there's nothing underneath the doing. Spoiler, there is. There's a whole person underneath, but you won't meet them until you're brave enough to stop performing long enough to listen. So, why does this happen? Why do our brains turn rest into a war zone? Let's talk about the neuroscience and psychology at play. First, your nervous system is stuck in survival mode. When you're constantly in go mode, your sympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for fight or flight, becomes your default state. Your body interprets rest as danger because stillness used to mean vulnerability. In ancestral times, stillness could mean you'd miss a threat. Now, your primitive brain translates that same instinct into, if I stop, something bad will happen. Your anxiety during rest isn't irrational, it's your nervous system trying to protect you from a threat that no longer exists. Second, you've been operantly conditioned. This is psychology 101. When a behavior is rewarded, you repeat it. You've been rewarded for productivity your entire life, with grades, with praise, with promotions, with external validation. Your brain has literally been wired to seek that dopamine hit that comes from achievement. Rest offers no external reward. No one praises you for lying on your couch. No one gives you a gold star for taking a nap. So your brain, desperate for that dopamine, creates discomfort around rest to push you back toward behaviors that get rewarded. You're not weak. You're responding exactly as you've been trained to respond. Third, interoceptive awareness. Your ability to sense your internal state has been disrupted. You've spent so long ignoring your body's signals, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm overwhelmed, that you no longer trust them. So when your body says rest, your mind overrides it with, but there's so much to do. You've disconnected from your body's wisdom, and without that connection, you can't distinguish between true urgency and manufactured anxiety. Fourth, trauma plays a role. If you grew up in an environment where love was conditional, where your safety depended on being useful, where mistakes were punished harshly, your nervous system learned that productivity equals survival. Rest becomes dangerous because it meant you weren't performing, and not performing meant you were vulnerable. Maybe you learned that idle time led to criticism. Maybe you learned that your needs were only met when you earned them. Maybe you learned that being too much or not enough resulted in abandonment. Your inability to rest isn't a character flaw, it's a trauma response. Now, and this is important, let's talk about the guilt you're feeling. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're not bad at self-care. You're a person who learned correctly how to survive in the environment you were in. If productivity kept you safe, made you lovable, earned you worth, then of course, you became productive. That was adaptive. That was smart. The problem isn't that you learned that pattern. The problem is that you're still living by those rules even though the environment has changed. You're still trying to earn worth that you already have. You're still trying to prove value that was never in question. Your nervous system is still operating from a rulebook written when you were young, when the stakes felt life or death. When productivity truly was your ticket to safety and love. You're not failing at rest, you're succeeding at survival. But you're surviving a threat that's no longer present. The voice that says you're wasting time isn't your authentic voice. It's the voice of every system, person, and experience that taught you your worth was conditional. It's the internalized capitalism. It's the family messaging. It's the cultural narrative that equates human value with economic output. And here's what I need you to understand. That voice is lying to you. Not because it's malicious, but because it's outdated. It's trying to protect you using strategies that no longer serve you. You deserve rest. Not because you've earned it, not because you've been productive enough, but because you're a human being with a nervous system that needs regulation, a body that needs recovery, and a soul that needs space to just exist. Your worth is inherent. It doesn't fluctuate based on your output, and you don't need permission to rest, but I know you're waiting for it, so here it is. You are allowed to rest, right now, exactly as you are. So, what do you actually do? How do you retrain a nervous system that's been wired this way for years? Step 1. Start with micro-rests. Don't try to take a full day off if 5 minutes of stillness sends you into panic. That's like trying to run a marathon when you can't walk around the block. Start with 60-second pauses. Set a timer. Sit. Breathe. Notice the discomfort without acting on it. Let the anxiety be there without running from it. Do this multiple times a day. Your goal isn't to feel relaxed, it's to build tolerance for rest. You're teaching your nervous system, we can stop moving and we're still safe. Gradually increase the duration. 60 seconds becomes 2 minutes. 2 minutes becomes 5. You're not being lazy, you're literally rewiring your brain's response to stillness. Step 2. Separate your identity from your output. This is the hard work. You need to actively build an identity that exists outside of productivity. Ask yourself, who am I when I'm not achieving? What do I value about myself that has nothing to do with what I produce? What parts of me exist purely for joy, not utility? Start a practice of noticing non-productive value. I'm kind. I am curious. I am funny. I notice beauty. I love deeply. I think interesting thoughts. These things have worth, even though they don't produce anything. Write them down. Say them out loud. Actively counteract the narrative that your worth is tied to your output. When the voice says you're wasting time, respond, I'm a human being, not a productivity machine. My existence has value even when I'm not producing. Step 3. Reframe rest as productive. I know, this seems like giving in to the productivity mindset, but sometimes you need to speak your nervous system's language to get through. Rest is productive. It's productive for your nervous system regulation. It's productive for your creativity. It's productive for your long-term sustainability. It's productive for your relationships because you show up less resentful and burnt out. When the anxiety hits, remind yourself, rest is the work right now. This is me being productive. I'm producing well-being, health, and capacity. You're not tricking yourself. You're telling the truth in a language your conditioned brain can understand. Step 4. Track the anxiety, not the tasks. When you try to rest and the guilt hits, don't immediately move into action. Instead, grab a journal and investigate. What am I afraid will happen if I rest? What do I think this means about me? Whose voice is telling me I should be doing something? What am I trying to avoid feeling? The anxiety isn't about the laundry or the emails, it's about something deeper. And until you investigate what's really driving the compulsion to stay busy, you'll keep reacting to false alarms. You're not journaling to process your feelings. You're journaling to expose the lie your anxiety is telling. Step 5. Build a rest practice, not a rest event. Stop waiting for the right time to rest. When you're on vacation, when everything's done, when you've earned it. You never will. Schedule rest like you schedule everything else. Put it in your calendar. Treat it as non-negotiable. Not because you're forcing yourself to relax, but because you're sending your nervous system a message. This matters. You matter. Start with one non-negotiable rest block per week. Could be an hour, could be a morning. During this time, you do nothing productive. No self-improvement podcasts. No productive rest. Just being. The discomfort will be intense at first. Sit with it. You're building new neural pathways. This is the work. Imagine this. 6 months from now, you wake up on a Saturday morning, you have nothing scheduled, and instead of immediate anxiety, you feel peaceful, maybe even excited about the space ahead of you. You make coffee slowly, you sit without your phone, you let your mind wander, and the voice that used to scream, "You're wasting time," has gotten quieter. Not gone, it might never be fully gone, but quiet enough that you can choose not to listen. You spend the afternoon reading a book just because you want to. Not a self-help book. Not something that will make you better at your job, just a story that makes you feel something, and you don't feel guilty about it. You've started to separate who you are from what you do. You introduce yourself differently. You talk about what you love, not just what you've achieved. You notice when you're making decisions based on productivity instead of joy, and you course correct. Your relationships improve. Because you're no longer so burnt out that you have nothing left to give. You're no longer so resentful because you're choosing your commitments instead of forcing yourself into all of them out of guilt. Your work actually gets better, not because you're working more, but because you're working from a place of restored energy instead of running on fumes. You're more creative, more focused, more present, and here's the most important thing. You've started to like yourself. Not for what you accomplish, but for who you are underneath it all. You've met the person you've been too busy to know, and they're pretty great. You still have moments where the old patterns emerge. But now you recognize them. You can say, "Oh, there's that old story again about needing to earn my worth." And you can choose differently. Rest stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like coming home to yourself. If you've made it this far, you're not just watching, you're ready to do this work. You've just invested over 10 minutes in understanding why you struggle with rest, and that tells me you're serious about change. You're not alone in this. This community is full of people unlearning the same patterns, rebuilding their relationship with rest, and discovering their worth outside of productivity. We're all learning that we're human beings, not human doings. Subscribe to be part of this ongoing transformation. Every week, we're diving deeper into the psychology that keeps us stuck and the practices that set us free. You belong here. Welcome home. Here's your challenge for this week. Take one 15-minute rest period. Set a timer. Sit somewhere comfortable. Do nothing. No phone, no book, no podcast. Just you. Sitting. Being. And when the anxiety comes, and it will, don't run. Don't fix it. Don't fill the space. Just notice it. Name it. Let it be there. You're not trying to feel relaxed. You're trying to prove to yourself that you can exist without producing, and the world doesn't end. That's the work. That's how you start. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who's burning out while calling it ambition. Comment and tell me, what's the hardest part about rest for you? I read every single comment, and your honesty helps build this community. Subscribe as you commit to this transformation, not just to productivity, but to actually living. To being a full human, not just a productivity machine. You are not what you produce. You are not your output. You are inherently worthy, exactly as you are, right now. Now go rest. For real this time.